Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to another F1 Worldwide episode, and we have a returning guest to the channel who has been on before, but it is his first time in 2020, and that is of course Raz from Raz on F1. So Raz, welcome back to the channel. Feel good to be back?
Yes, very good. Actually, really pleased to be back in 2020. I always love collaborating with you, mate. And I hope that in 2020 we can actually meet up in person. But till then, we can always chat on these episodes and collaborations, and let's make it a good one.
I'm sure we will get that meet up together in 2020, Raz. I'm sure we certainly will. But, you know, for today, it's an F1 Worldwide episode. So that means we usually, for our guest, get on to talk about an F1 topic that is close to their heart. When we are recording this, it is actually before the start of the season. It is just on the last day of testing in Barcelona. So we've got a bit of info to go on, but as it's testing, you can't really take too much. But today's topic, we're going to be talking about Williams. And obviously Williams on 2018 were in the decline. In 2019, they were in a really torrid state at the back of the grid. We're asking today the question, can Williams be back to being competitive in 2020? And what does kind of being competitive mean for Williams in the 2020 F1 season? So Raz, I start off with you. Do you think Williams can be competitive in 2020?
Well, actually, I've been watching a load of the testing, thanks to I really enjoyed watching the testing, and from the testing it looks as though they are not. They've actually in the midfield sort of thing, right? So I'm kind of surprised. Having said that, as you say, it's only testing, but still, I think they've done more. I think they're in a better position than Haas at the minute. So I'm hoping that they can. I wouldn't say that they are. Gonna be fighting for wins and podiums. I think that's a long shot, but I would just be happy to see them, at least scoring more than 1 point.
Yeah, I think absolutely, Raz. Obviously we can't really tell because obviously all the teams are running different programs, but it certainly seems like Williams have at least closed the gap. So even if they're still at the back, they're a lot closer than they were last year, which shows improvement. And I think everyone, as an F1 fan, kind of hopes. Nobody likes to see a team doing badly, and I think everyone kind of hopes that they're going to, compete and for more points and score more than the 1 point that they scored last year. I think they've got a real talent in George Russell. But yeah, I think it certainly looks like they might be more competitive. And for me, like you said, it's not going to be wins and podiums. That's not going to be what makes Williams competitive in the 2020 season. For me, it's catching up with the teams who were just above them last year, which were Haas and Alfa Romeo. And if they could even get a 9th or an 8th in the Constructors, I think that would be a real positive step for them, bridging the gap that they kind of had to kind of push forward. And yeah, I think with Williams it's going to be another tough year, but I'm hoping it's not going to be as tough as what 2019 was. But for 2020, I think they've got a new driver lineup in George Russell and obviously rookie driver Nicholas Latifi. But I think a lot of their success for this season rests on the shoulders of George Russell. What do you make of that, Raz?
I mean, George Russell is definitely the key, I reckon. because he's got these Mercedes tyres, and for me, it's just a question of how long can Williams realistically keep hold of him, because sooner or later I think he is the most likely to replace Valtteri Bottas if and when he does. But as I said, I think George is doing an absolutely amazing job for Williams, and I think he really gets them. Like, you know, I think he really gets that it's not a sprint, it's like a marathon for them. I mean, I've done a video a couple of days ago, entitled "For Williams, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon." And what I mean by that is sort of even if they were at the back of the grid, I think if they can score some points and get some credibility back, as they said in Sky commentary, you know, if they can become credible again, I think that's the main thing for them. But anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I think George Russell is a huge talent, and he really kind of maximises what he can get out of that Williams, and he is obviously looking to kind of step. He wants to drive Williams forwards, because if he makes Williams look good, then George Russell looks good. So he wants to get that kind of massive performance out of the car, and I think him almost qualifying in Q2 in Hungary was very impressive. So it would be exciting to see in qualifying, could they get out of Q3? You know, they won't in like all the kind of races, but can they in kind of, you know, let's say 3 or 4 of the races that they get into Q2? I think, like you said, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's making small gains, and also just showing signs of improvement makes it easier for them in 2021, because money, I know, has been a little bit of a struggle for them, and obviously losing out Rexona, who was it? Unibold, I think it was, is the brand.
And Martini as well.
Yeah, so they've lost those big sponsors. Obviously, they've got Lavazza with Nicholas Latifi coming in on that front. But, you know, they need to show improvement in this season to kind of say, look, we had a bad season, we hit rock bottom, but now we're coming back. Back us in 2021, and with our history, with the team, the ethic we've got, we will keep driving and improving. And yeah, I think it's really important for Williams to show that in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really hope that they can do is do a similar thing like McLaren has done, like, because in 2015, when McLaren went back to Honda and it all went a bit pear-shaped, and then Fernando, he
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm absolutely with you. I have a soft spot for Williams because, along with McLaren, along with Ferrari, they're one of the most historic teams on the grid, and they're one of the most successful in F1 history. And you know, they're a true independent team as well. And to still be competing against the big manufacturers with their huge budgets and still being in F1 and kind of, despite all Mercedes' efforts, turning down the chance to kind of almost become a Mercedes B team. Although obviously the success hasn't come yet, it is absolutely admirable to see, and it makes me sad, kind of, you know, new fans to the sport and young fans to the sport. They'll see Williams as just a bit of a joke, and this team that kind of go round at the back of the grid. And you know, during the 90s and 80s, they had a lot of success as well, but 90s was definitely Williams' most successful time in F1. They shared, you know, in terms of the constructors, in terms of how much they won, they pretty much shared a similar level of dominance that, you know, Mercedes did. I think they won 6 constructors championships within the 90s, which was impressive, and I think 3 drivers titles as well. So, you know, very impressive for them, for Williams. And no, sorry, they did 4, didn't they? Because Damon Hill won 1 as well. So it was Mansell, Prost, Damon Hill, and Villeneuve, of course. So, you know, they're a true great of the sport, and it's so sad to see how far they've fallen. And I think, you know, people who've been a fan for a while are just rooting for Williams to drive back up, to get back to the levels. You know, such a great team within Formula One. It is taking it one step at a time. They're at the back. The next step, be competitive in the midfield. The next step after that, be the best in the midfield. The next step after that, challenge in the kind of top 3 teams. You know, those are how it's going to go. I mean, we're hoping that 2021 is a big equaliser. So, you know, it means that all the teams are on a level playing field again. But, I suppose we'll round off this part of the topic, Raz, with, you know, with Williams. Do you see them in 2021 capitalising on the rules? Do you think they can really make a step up?
I think, and you know, I think because I think it's on the point that you made earlier. Just jump back just quickly, because I think Williams, the problem Williams have got at the minute is that everybody is sort of writing them off, so to speak, and like I've made a couple of videos about possible driver changes, like, and I've said, like, one of the videos I said, why doesn't somebody like Nico Hülkenberg maybe go back to Williams? And the first comment I got was, "Oh, it's never going to happen because he wouldn't want to drive round at the back." So, you know, I think they are in a catch-22 situation, because at the minute they are where they are, but they're not able to get. I mean, obviously they've got George Russell, but I think, as I said, as soon as a Mercedes seat is becoming available, I think he's gonna go over to Mercedes. So I think they are not in a position at the minute to attract good drivers, like, that are not in any sort of program, or like almost like paid drivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point, Raz. And you know, like I hark back to the kind of glory days, but you know, this was the team that in 1993, the two best drivers in the sport in terms of Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, obviously Mansell had already driven for them and won the championship before, they wanted to drive for Williams. You now look and you go, would Lewis Hamilton, you know, at the top of his game, turn around and drive for Williams in its state? It's not as, you know, it's not the attractive option that it used to be. So it's I think they need to build that reputation, because I think a lot of people would enjoy driving for Williams and the team and the history, a bit like Ferrari have. But, you know, they just have no faith in them to build the car at the moment, and they just need to find a way of producing and building a good car in the means of their facilities, you know, maybe like a Racing Point above them. But yes.
I mean, like you said, I think what do I think about them in 2021? I think they could do something similar that McLaren have done.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, what people are now saying about Williams, what people are now saying about Williams, they used to say about McLaren, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The way that they dropped off, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in 2015, 16, 17, and 18, would you wanted to drive for McLaren?
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, McLaren relied on the heritage, and they were lucky in the fact that they had already gained Fernando Alonso. But, you know, it got to the stage where obviously Alonso drove away, left the team in 2018. And so, yeah, you know, like I said, you wouldn't have got a Lewis Hamilton at that stage moving away from Mercedes to go to McLaren, a Vettel or a Max Verstappen. They wouldn't have moved to McLaren at that stage of their career. So, yeah, no, absolutely. You make a very good point. It shows that things can turn around very quickly in Formula One. I think the main budget issue is for Williams, but with that budget cap coming in and knowing the exact kind of, at least the baseline minimum that they need to compete in Formula One, I think that will help a team like them. May not in the year 2021, but maybe 2022, 23, 24. It certainly could benefit the Williams team.
Yeah, and like, you know, I would say something, and the one I'm going to say now is going to cheese a few people off, but I reckon Fernando Alonso going to McLaren ultimately killed his Formula One career.
It was a move that they both hoped would work. But yeah, it didn't help him. It was wrong place, wrong time, and the situation. McLaren weren't ready for a driver like McLaren at that time, and Fernando wasn't at the stage of his career that he was ready to take on the building challenge that was required with Honda and McLaren. So it was, it wasn't a recipe that necessarily worked out in hindsight, but hindsight is a wonderful thing. But I think what is positive about Williams is they have a young driver in George Russell who is happy to drive this project on, because he realises that if he impresses here, it will go a long way of impressing a lot of people in the paddock. And he really can be, if he stays the length of his 3-year contract, so obviously drives this year and then obviously the first year of the 2021 rules for Williams, I think, you know, they will struggle to keep him beyond this year, but it will be interesting to see if he does stay at Williams. He will really, in terms of the car front, and what they can get out of the car, he will certainly be that special talent that they need to kind of drive them forward.
You know what I want to see at Williams?
Yeah?
In an ideal world?
Yeah?
Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know. What, an older or a younger driver?
A driver with massive amounts of experience that is coming towards the possibly end of his career in terms of top teams, but enough drive to be able to still have the desired take on the project of driving setting Williams back onto the path of glory, so to speak.
I think I have a very good idea who that driver might be, and with your German links, I very much feel that guy is Sebastian Vettel you're talking about.
No.
Oh, I've got it wrong. End of his career in an ideal world. No, I don't know. Tell me, Raz.
Kimi
Raikkonen from Alpha.
Yes.
He would be very good. And he hasn't actually driven for Williams in his career, has he? So that would be another team for him to tick off. But
no, but he just likes driving.
He does.
Yeah. He would be awesome to get. I think he's quiet as anything. He's a PR. He's a journalist's nightmare because you can't get 2 words out of him. But I think he could motivate the team.
He is very technically minded. He's very experienced. He certainly would help massively with the development of the car. He certainly would be very interesting. I very much feel if Kimi does stay, it will be with Alfa Romeo. But if he wanted to stay and Alfa Romeo didn't want him, I think Williams and Kimi would be a fantastic fit. I think for his experience, I'm not entirely sure how likely it would be to happen, but it certainly would be a good fit.
I think both of us know that. Even I thought I even did a video who will drive for Haas in 2021, but I think we all know it's unlikely. But it would be, because the ultimate driver, I think, would be Lewis Hamilton. But I think Lewis Hamilton to Williams is never gonna happen.
Not unless they kind of showed some improvement that he could maybe end his career at. But yeah, no, I think you're right. That is far beyond the dream realms. Where Kimi Raikkonen, you could make a case for. Still unlikely, but you could make a case for it, certainly.
But I think they need to find a driver that is willing, that knows he's at the end of his career. Yeah, this is only like a development role, but a development role with racing, if you know what I mean.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that, and I think he enjoys it. And for me, Kimi, a lot of people are muting that Kimi will retire, but I kind of feel like the racer within him is a little bit intrigued by the rule changes and would be interested to see what the cars are like in that new set of rules and regulations.
I tell you something, yeah, and this is it. You can lynch me off if this doesn't happen. Kimi Raikkonen is gonna retire after Sebastian Vettel.
I mean, it would be bold. It would be Kimi keeping going for a while, because I think Sebastian's still got a fair few years in him. But it's not. That's not beyond the realms of possibility, because Kimi really does love racing.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
with Mercedes. I reckon, I think Mercedes' plan always was for him to help Mercedes to get back to winning ways. I know they said, "Oh, we want to win championships," yeah. But I reckon the true reason why Schumacher came back to Mercedes was to help them develop the car and get to where they are now.
Absolutely. I think that's a very fair kind of assessment to make. And yeah, if Kimi could help that at the tail end of his career with Williams, I think that would be impressive. But I'll move on the conversation now. So we've spoken about kind of Williams in 2020 and Williams in 2021. But the reason that I got you on to speak about Williams is because obviously in recent years you have become a fan of Williams, and that was because at one stage I remember obviously you brought this story up on the F1 YouTubers Decoded, now named F1 Online Decoded, on the F1 Debate Shows channel. And obviously, you know, you had been to the Williams factory. You wrote letters to all the teams, and Williams were the only one who responded, and they invited you down to the factory. So yeah, I think the first question is, you know, when was that, and tell us a little bit more about that factory visit to Williams.
Well, you know, because my dream, to tell you a bit of a story that went before it, because I don't know who knows, but apart from YouTube, I've got my own sort of self-employed business doing German and English translation and also online tutoring. So my goal has always been to combine my translation business with Formula One, sort of with my love of Formula One. So I wrote to every single Formula One team, yeah, and Williams were the only ones to respond. Not only did they respond, I got a personal letter from Claire Williams herself, and I was thinking when I posted it off, oh, the most that you're gonna get is
I mean, it's an absolutely incredible story, Raz, and it's incredible nice that the only team to get back in touch with you, and I have no doubt that your story, obviously, you pushed through, and you cerebral palsy, you make the most of what you can do. Like you said, you're self-employed. You've got, your own translation business in there. You run your own YouTube channel as well that you put a lot of time and dedication into. And, I think, they would have resonated that and seen, in what Frank did. Obviously, he was a very determined person, built his own team and business up, had that tragic accident back in 1985, I believe, was the accident, wasn't it?
Yes.
And
which was he thought he was late, but he wasn't, and because he got the times mixed up because of the time difference, which makes it even more tragic.
It does, yeah, because there was no real rush for him to get to. But it's these things that happen sometimes, kind of, life throws you these barriers that you got to, and you got to overcome them. And it's amazing that you got to kind of experience the factory, the effort they went to kind of make you feel welcome, that kind of story of holding up Pastor Maldonado's trophy. I know that win is very special to them because, well, currently it's their last win in F1, but I know it was, I believe it was the last win that they were all together as a family. I believe Claire's mum, Ginny, and obviously Frank's wife, Ginny, was there, and I believe a couple of the sons were there. I believe the sons were there as well, but I can't remember. I might be wrong on that front. But it sounds great, and that's what F1 does. It kind of unites. It doesn't matter, what your background is, who you are. You can be a fan of Formula One, and Williams have very much made a team. I think what resonates them with a lot of people is they are a team that essentially Frank was a fan of Formula One, made his own team, and drove himself forward to the fact that he's been in the sport they were celebrating 50 years, weren't they, last year?
Yeah.
Which...
And actually, that, when I watched, I don't know whether you watched it, but I think I put a tweet out, when I watched the first day of testing, and just saw George Russell posting the sixth fastest time at the test, I think it was, and then they showed between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, they showed the documentary that they did with Frank in last year. Did you watch that one?
I did. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I must admit, that made my eyes water. I say crying, and I was all emotional because Frank is obviously paralysed. I'm not paralysed. I've just got, but I've just got cerebral palsy, which the only thing that I can't do is I can't walk, but to see Frank with that level of disability being able to run, being still able to run a team and be successful, and that brought a tear to my eye, and still to this day, actually talking about it, makes me a bit emotional because I've got no doubt that if the Williams team didn't exist, Frank would be dead by now.
I feel it very much is a driving force, and it was something that has kept him going and his motivation to be successful. And I think the most inspirational thing is, obviously after that tragic accident in 1985, he then went on, and like we've spoken about, in the 90s went on to be a dominant team, have the best drivers in the sport drive for his team. It's incredible, and I imagine it must be incredibly inspiration for you as well, to kind of see someone like you said, he has been an inspiration, kind of seeing someone like Frank be successful, and the kind of effort and lengths they went to. It's no doubt that Williams now will always have a special place in your heart.
Yeah, and I know where people come from, but it makes me feel. I know where people come from when they say, "Oh, they've got trouble with funding and stuff," but take that out of the equation. Yeah, and I can talk from personal experience. Yeah. For me, I go to the gym three times a week. Yeah, I've got my specialty. I've got my personal trainer, Warren. I go to the gym, go out. Yeah, I go out whether it's rain or shine. I always go to the gym. If I see something on the news that's worth doing a video over, I do a video because I love it, and I love the feedback from the people. But I'm telling everybody that it's not easy, like being disabled is not an easy thing to do, and to be able to run a Formula One team, that's just incredible. So I've got massive respect for Williams and Frank as a person, and that's why it sort of makes me feel upset when people sort of talking them down, even though I understand it. But I do truly believe that they've got the capability of coming back to the top.
I genuinely think they have, and I think if any of the teams, because they have such that long history in Formula One, because they have that swell of support, and if Williams do well, I think there is just a general consensus within the F1 community that they would be so happy and so pleased to do it well. And what was really telling for me was when George Russell stepped into the seat last year with Williams, he still said what a great honour it was to drive for a team like Williams. And it's pretty special, and they are a special piece of F1. They will forever be a part of F1 history. But I don't want to talk about Williams in the future as that team who were great. I want to talk about Williams again as a team competing in F1, competing to a level that's high, having good drivers, and we're talking about Williams as the chance to potentially win races and championships again. I mean, that's what I hope for them. And like you, I think it feels tough watching a team like Williams. No one has the right to be successful. You have to work hard and you have to earn it. But Williams do work hard and they give everything they got. They're fighting against the stream of how commercialism and funding has kind of taken the sport away from teams like Williams, although it's always been expensive to compete in. But you just you feel if anyone can do it, if anyone can come back from where they are, it's Williams.
And one question for you: Do you think the budget cap is gonna work? I hope it does for Williams' sake. I really do. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that it might not work because the FIA are not going to be tough enough if somebody
I don't know. In this one, it's only time will tell. We can hope that it will level the playing field. The thing is, they're trying to make a change. This budget cap may not be perfect. It may have to be more, more of a kind of stricter and tighter budget cap. We don't know. But I think the positive of what F1 have done, because it was getting ridiculous, in terms of the funding that Mercedes and Ferrari in particular were pumping into the sport, it's got to be, it was unsubstantial for them. What if they got it wrong one year and, they've invested all that money? They could easily quite collapse, which also wouldn't be a good thing for the sport. So, in honest answer, I don't know whether the budget cap will work. But like you, I hope it does. And I hope a team like Williams, teams like Haas lower down the order, Sauber, Alfa Romeo, I hope they're able to kind of gain back and we see a closer field. We still see the engineering brilliance, but we just see a closer field in the championships. But F1 history, there hasn't necessarily been a massively close field throughout the grid. So I wouldn't expect too much to change on that. I just hope Williams can capitalise.
Well, where for you does Williams rank in terms of iconic and his historic teams? If you had to rate them in terms of if you had to rate them in terms of who do you think is the most iconic and sort of the most bringing to the sport, where do you think Williams be for you?
For me, Ferrari on top, because they have been pretty much there through all the years. Ferrari will always be the most iconic team in Formula One, unless obviously, they leave. But I think as long as Formula One exists, I think Ferrari will exist in some form in Formula One. Below that, I would put on a par McLaren and Williams. I think for me, they're on a par in terms of their iconic status within Formula One. Both are a substantial part of the history. Obviously, Bruce McLaren was a driver within it and then making his own team and that team becoming iconic. And Frank Williams, a fan, had that failure with his first team, came back, with his with Patrick Head and made, a second team, made that team successful, within a couple of years of being in a team. They'd won the World Drivers' Championship. To then have the success that they had in the 80s and 90s, that will hugely be impressive and iconic to me. And so, yeah, it goes Ferrari, and then below that for me is McLaren and Williams.
Yes, I'm surprised you didn't mention somebody like the old Jordan team, but I think they was iconic as well. But they were sort of, along with Williams, truly independent teams.
Yeah, Jordan are iconic and they have cult status, but in terms of history and what they've brought and added to the team, I think, those three teams in F1 with Ferrari sitting on top, those are the three most iconic teams for me.
Yeah, I've got one fear though for Williams, and I hope it's not going to happen. I've got one massive fear, and I do not want that to happen at all. I don't want the dad of Nicholas Latifi coming in and buying the team.
I think for me, Williams to be the true Williams team, how it has been and how much that family have been through, a Williams has to be at the head of the team. When Frank got bought out first time round, it didn't end well. And obviously, he realised that he couldn't work under someone. He needed that independence. I don't know if Claire could bite that bullet where she was still the team principal, but someone else owned the team. But I think it would be sad. This is speaking in an ideal world. In an ideal world, you know, Williams will be able to compete with them running and owning the team and then being able to be successful from there. In reality, they may need some help. They may need someone to buy him. But for me, a Williams, as long as they want to, should always be at the head of the Williams team.
Yep.
And
I think...
Go on, Raz.
So, I think you're right there. I think Williams belongs at the top of the food chain, if you know what I mean. I think that the minute that you put somebody else in, I think it's going to lose. It wouldn't be Williams without a Williams at the top, if you know what I mean. So I totally agree with you on that front.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good point to round off this F1 Worldwide podcast. I think it's been a fantastic and interesting topic. Williams is such a team that I think a lot of people have a soft spot for and want to see well, but their future is so uncertain. From getting to testing this year and what we've seen, this will come out, this podcast, after the second race in Bahrain, so we'll have a better idea then, you guys listening to it, than what we have when we record it here. But I really do hope that, you know, George can drive that team forward, Nicholas Latifi can hit the ground running and be a good support role, and, you know, they can at least be competitive and start building towards a more positive future again, rather than where Williams were at the end of the 2019 season. We'll just... a final thought from you, Raz, on Williams?
Totally agree with you, mate. 100%. And I really wish them all the best. And even if they can score, let's say, for me, even if they score something like 10 points this season, I think that would be a success.
Absolutely. And I think your line is a very good line, and we'll use it again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. They've hit rock bottom, it's now about rebuilding for Williams, and I really hope that they can rebuild in a successful direction. But that, guys, has been the end of another F1 Worldwide podcast and another fantastic topic and chat for now. And, you know, it's been brilliant having you on, Raz, and speaking about a team who are kind of so positive, or have done so positive for you, and, you know, are close to your heart. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Mike. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, always, and I'm really hoping we can get a face-to-face meet organised. Obviously, you're going to have to come and visit me because I can't travel that well, but I'm sure you can jump on a train and we go to go somewhere or something. But for now, it's been a pleasure being on your show, and although you're catching me up in terms of subscribers, I'm not bitter. In fact, I'm the opposite. I know that we will always support each other, you know, and for it, but in the meantime, I'm really loving to do all these YouTube videos and have somebody like Mike by my side who always invites me onto his channel, and it's always a pleasure, Mike. So thank you very much.
No problem at all, Raz. And yeah, I'll echo that, guys. You know, make sure you do check out Raz's channel and you do subscribe and you support him as well. He is, if you can not obviously gathered from today's episode, you know, he is an incredibly passionate Formula One fan. And, you know, he really is, you know, he loves the sport. He's been a fan for such a long time of the sport. And, you know, he just loves it, and he loves making videos like all of us in the F1 YouTube community are. And guys, if you are new around here or you haven't done so already, please do drop a subscribe to us as well, and like the video. It helps us, lets us know that you've enjoyed the content from today's episode. And comment down below on your thoughts on Williams. Do you have any kind of special stories like Raz does about Williams, or what do you think Williams will do in 2020? What do you see them being more competitive, and what does the future hold in 2021? Can you see them progressing forward? It'll be great to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below as always. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.